All right, here we go. Part two. First game, we got 3 left. Patriots at the Packers. Currently 63% of the cash is on New England. Current spread's 9.5 for the Packers. We're getting it at 10.5. Some news, Mac, maybe slight chance to play this week, but I don't know. It looks like a pretty serious injury. I don't think he's going to be able to get out there. We both got us the lowest. Man, I wish Mac was playing because I actually would have liked to bet on the Patriots here. Packers, I don't think look too inspiring. I saw a stat this week. Aaron Rodgers' average depth of target right now is 3 yards. 3 yards. And maybe it says as much about, well, obviously it does, but it says about the state of his receivers more than him probably.
Yeah.
But even their running game, I think if their passing offense is going to be, I don't know if inept's the word, but this unexplosive, at some point teams are going to be able to stack the box against them and really slow down Dillon and Jones as well. So we both got it pretty low. We'll see about the news with Mac as the week goes on, but any more thoughts?
No, not really. I think that A-dot stat is interesting because every time I watch him, it's just check down after check down, and I'm fine with that because I have AJ Dillon in a few leagues, so it has paid dividends in that department. But yeah, no, it's a pretty big spread. But I mean, if Mac doesn't play, then there's a chance that New England doesn't score more than like 6 points. So I think that it's not going to be a pretty game, but I could easily see this one being like a 14-6, 21-6, something like that, which will have us covered. So it's the least amount of confidence, though, just because, again, who the heck knows what's going to happen with the Packers, and it's a lot of points to cover. But I still do think that they can get it done.
Yeah, exactly. And actually looking at this game now, I'm getting a little bit more confident just because if I do, the way I do think about Mac Jones, I think he's a bigger part of this Patriots team that people realize. And we just saw the Packers cover a big one versus the Bears a couple of weeks ago. So maybe as the week goes on, we get some more info on Mac. We'll move it up a bit, but Packers still don't look anything to write home about.
Yep.
Next game, Chiefs at the Bucks. Current spread, a little bit of movement, I guess. Tampa Bay +1, 87% of the cash is on Kansas City. We're going to get KC -2.5, and we both got it pretty high. Yeah. I just think, I'm fine. Like we keep saying every week, I don't think it's any indictment on what they'll be at the end of the year, but I'm fine to keep betting against the Bucks until someone wants to wake up over there, if they're capable. Kansas City, tough loss. I think so. Tyreek Hill has 380 yards, and all of Mahomes' receivers right now have like 480.
Oh my gosh.
So, maybe getting rid of one of the best receivers in the league to keep a right tackle or left tackle. Who knows if it's the right move? We'll see. But nevertheless, I think they're not the teams with the biggest problems in this game right now.
Nope. Yeah, I agree. Not much else to say other than I do expect the Chiefs to bounce back, and you'd usually expect any Brady-led offense to bounce back, but they're too banged up. Their defense is still really good, but I think it's more so their run defense that's elite. Their secondary is fine, but I mean they're really amazing at just kind of stuffing their run. We saw that against the Packers, two-headed offense. So we'll see how it goes, but I do feel really good about KC up top here.
Yeah, and looking at these lines. This in the next game. Who would have thought? Imagine saying this time last year. So the Chiefs and the Bucks over/under is 45. Mahomes versus Brady, 45-point over/under. In the next game, we got Rams at the San Francisco 49ers, over/under of 42 points.
Yeah.
I mean, what has happened to the NFL? Jesus. So as mentioned, the next game, the Monday Night Cap, Rams at the San Francisco 49ers. One of my favorite matchups watching the league the past couple of years. Always close no matter what. Two of the best coaches in the league. We're getting it at 2.5, down to 1.5, 59% on the San Francisco 49ers. They didn't look pretty. They lost. They flat out lost. Would have helped us. I think we would have been tied for first on the season, and we would have came in second on the week if San Francisco beat Denver. But I mean, it sucks to say. It's almost like we're talking about the NBA. Jimmy's first game back, he did have a semi-serious shoulder injury, and hasn't practiced in 2 months basically with the first stringers. Or I guess really 10 months with the first stringers. So I think the Niners get together. Don't want to take too much stock in one game versus in Denver at Mile High. And St. Louis, I still think has some issues of their own. Or LA, geez.
St. Louis. That'd be a big issue.
Yeah.
I feel the most confident about this one. I just think it's a nice bounce back spot for them. As you mentioned, Jimmy, they're still kind of getting everything together. This is an offense designed around Trey Lance, and now all of a sudden it's back to Jimmy we go. So it's going to take a few weeks to recover. But I also do think that any team that plays against Denver is just going to play a weird game. It's what we were saying. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. It's like it feels like they just kind of play down to the way their opponent is playing. And for whatever reason, they just play into the hands of the Broncos, and whatever that means, that's kind of what they did. A weird Jimmy safety played into another weird Denver Broncos scoreline. But no, I expect a big bounce back, and I do like Shanahan over McVay in the regular season. I think that, I don't know what the stat is there, but I mean, that's got a good track record. So using a bit of history there. And I don't feel overly impressed with the Rams. I think every week we watch them, it's like, okay, maybe they'll things will start to click, but no, it's a lot of Cooper Kupp. He's inevitable, but everything else around them isn't impressive. Not a great line. Defense isn't as scary as it has been, especially compared to like last year. And yeah, just not the same Rams that I think we're all used to. And obviously you can't really say not the same 49ers, because what are the 49ers? They're just, they could be this, but sometimes they're that. So I expect them to be the 49ers that we both do enjoy on their day. So let's ride with them.
Yeah, exactly. And one thing I'm seeing on Twitter, it's funny. I would like to be in the locker room just because, I mean, just in terms of the macro decisions this front office has been making with the 49ers, it's interesting. Right. I want to know what they actually think to be a fly on the wall there. But everyone's on Twitter talking about, yeah, of course this team's going to play like garbage. Jimmy doesn't want to be there, and Shanahan doesn't want him there either. Like, I mean, this team can't win. Last week, maybe just in the echo chamber, but everyone's talking about, Lance sucks. This team's going to be nothing. They kept Jimmy for a reason. You got to play Jimmy. Jimmy gets in, and Jimmy sucks too. I mean, come on, we got to pick a side. The Bills can't be the only good team in the NFL. I mean, they lost too, so who knows? But there has to be more than two good teams in the NFL. I think this is one of them.
Yep.
We can talk about complaining about Jimmy G all week, but guess what? Right now, about 20 quarterbacks in the NFL stinking, maybe more. So it doesn't really matter. So that's it for the games. Current card right now. We'll see if injuries or anything else throughout the week happens. We got in order: San Fran, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Chargers, Miami, Minnesota, Buffalo, Arizona, Las Vegas, Seattle, Tennessee, Giants, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Washington, Green Bay.
Yeah, I looking at it, I do feel better than when I made my original card. It feels like it's got a nice little flow to it. There's definitely maybe like a cutoff line where I start to feel a little bit less confident. I do like our top three. Chargers as well. I think that, I think we have like a strong like 3 to 4, and I think Miami's where things start to teeter a little bit. But I think from Buffalo up, I feel pretty confident, and the rest is ranked accordingly because we don't know where it's going to go.
Yeah, that makes sense. And actually, I didn't really look at everyone else's picks last week. I'm taking a look now for the first time because I do like seeing what everyone was on.
Yeah, of course.
So the biggest one we got, 15 out of 17 took the Ravens over the Pats. We were with them, so nothing crazy. Everyone had a pretty high confidence. So we lost points by taking the Ravens just because everyone else had it higher and we had it at 11. Next up, Bengals looked like only 5 people took the Jets, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 people took the Vikings. So everyone likes riding the Lions, it seems.
Yeah.
And then other than that, it was actually 50-50 for like the first time all season. Usually there's been a couple of these games that everyone's all in on. And then I guess everyone took Pittsburgh on Thursday, which is funny too, because I was going to text you. I had 5 different people basically text me saying, "Oh, this spread's crazy tonight. What the hell? How can this be the spread? Pittsburgh's a lock." And I'm like, shit, we might as well just switch to Cleveland. If it ended up being 13 people took Pittsburgh or 14 people, but
crazy.
Whatever. You win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
So next up, let's see. Fantasy team, another win in terms of fantasy corner. We keep rolling. Number 1 seed right now. Still second highest score.
Yep.
And it's funny too, because our team actually kind of shit the bed, but
Lamar
Jackson or Ramondre Stevenson.
It is kind of crazy what Lamar, just kind of the floor that Lamar has provided this through 3 weeks, and will probably continue. This week could be a little bit tougher. We'll see against the Bills, but if his production teeters a little bit, then I think we can be confident that, I can't believe I'm even saying this, but Kupp, Tyreek,
Yeah.
Eckler.
Someone else
Like,
will bounce back.
yeah, don't worry. One of those three will probably turn up.
Yeah. And I keep liking what, Goddard's not been flashy, but I keep liking what we're getting.
He's
from him.
stable. Yeah.
Yeah. And let's see. I'm taking a look now. Past 2 weeks. Oh, wow. This is what I told him we were between Ramondre and Mostert. Past 2 weeks, Ramondre's at 62% of snaps both week. Maybe it gets a little worse without Mack in there in terms of the checkdowns, but he was involved. 17 opportunities, including a touchdown.
What about what were the numbers on Mostert? Because watching that game in its entirety, I feel like I didn't see it very much, and it seems like it was a lot of Edmonds again.
Interesting. Yeah. So same thing as the week before. So we had 55%. Week 1, he's at 42. Week 2, 55. Last week, 56. I don't know. Because week 2, he had 14 touches. Last week, only 8. Maybe that's about the amount of plays they ran in general. But yeah, Edmonds vultured him with the 2 touchdowns. So who even knows like how that's breaking down?
Yeah, there is no rhyme or reason for who gets the touches when. It kind of just seems like ride the hot hand, and Edmonds looked pretty good. He didn't get a ton of attempts either, but as you mentioned, it was 2 touchdowns, and I don't remember if it was the first or the second one. He pretty much couldn't mess up. They were like there was a holding call in the end zone. Yeah. I think they gave him like 3 looks, and eventually he just cashed in. So
yeah, because he dropped I think it was one of those targeting penalties, so not necessarily on him, but he dropped the touchdown too. Edmonds did.
Yeah.
So who knows? I feel fine. We're still a deep roster, and as the week goes by, more and more people are texting the group chat, tanking and wanting to get rid of players. So I'm not too worried. We got to compete with about 3 teams.
Yep.
Made 3 moves today too. We got Giants D going against Fields.
Good
with Jerick McKinnon for Jordan Mason. McKinnon actually,
that's
surprised by this. He's been the leading snap guy for the running backs all 3 weeks, and last week he played 52% of snaps. So
yeah, it is funny. CEH has had some. He's looked good on paper, but yeah, it's way more of a committee than I think anyone's willing to identify. So if you're a CEH owner out there, I think this is the kind of maybe one of the last weeks you could probably sell him high.
Yeah, and then the last guy, a little bit of a weird one. We kind of had a roster spot we had to fill with someone. Richie James of the Giants.
Oh yeah,
a guy who, I've always thought he's a pretty. He looks good when he's gotten a chance. I know 2 years ago he had, a 35-point game for the Niners.
Yeah.
That's a long time ago, but I think he's looked pretty solid so far this year. And maybe with Shepard out, he looks a little bit more opportunities as well.
Look, there's targets to go around in that offense. It can't just be Saquon and the tight end's name is now slipping my brain here, but regardless, yeah, they're gonna have a lot of time to pass as well. I feel pretty good about the Giants this week, and I think we have that reflected on our picks. But yeah, no, that's a solid pick, and that's one that could maybe pay dividends for. Obviously, it's a dynasty league, but I mean that he's viable, and he's certainly someone that if shit were to ever hit the fan with our team, which knock on wood, I don't see as possible.
Yeah,
he'll come in there. Just
and I think it's nice. Injuries. So you're keeping him off someone's roster too, because it's exactly we don't really need the roster spot, and there's no one really young on waivers. So I figured might as well just take him in case he does kind of step into a bigger role. Yeah, they seem to like him if they're benching Tony for him.
For sure.
Yeah. So, you got any mailbag questions this week?
I do. Okay. In the spirit of Amy sending one through, Emma has sent one through. Emma sent it for those unaware. Not quite as it is thought provoking, but not quite as I don't know what the word would be, but it's a little less controversial. But she is curious, and I know the answer to one part of this, but favorite player of all time and favorite current player. I'll let you start. Oh, well, talk about Matt Ryan I'm going to time you. You have 45 seconds to talk about Matt Ryan.
I just think, we talked to him a little bit last week too. Matt Ryan, not only I just as a leader, as a person, could not root for someone and grow up into being a fan of a team. Mm-hmm. He's the ideal guy to root for. Yeah. It's not like rooting for Brady where you're just always winning. You're always chasing, and he was always producing, whether for good or for worse. He's a guy I'll ride and die with until he's inducted into the Hall of Fame one day.
There you go.
Favorite player right now in the NFL?
That one's interesting. I'm really interested to hear your answer.
Wow. This is tough. You go with one of yours and I'll think real quick.
Yeah, so I mean, it's fun to watch Josh Allen right now. Emma and the family are all Bills fans, so it's hard not to like him. It's you know he's like Matt Ryan. He's just the kind of guy you want to root for. Just super down to earth, very good with the community, and clearly just a fun guy to be around. You can tell the players love him. But I'll go a little bit more against the grain. And if you know me, you'll probably know that I'm just a big Adam Thielen guy. Won me a fantasy championship maybe like 3 or 4 years ago. So I had to buy his jersey. And, I've had no affiliation whatsoever with the Vikings. But again, he's just kind of been underrated his entire career. And not like I followed him his entire career. But once you kind of have that attachment with a player in fantasy, especially, they just kind of become your guy. And I just think it's fun to watch him. He's a fun player to watch. He seems like he's just always open in the end zone. And obviously he's not flashy, and he's completely overshadowed by a receiver who's by all accounts, like, twice the athlete he'll ever be, but he's just fun to root for. Good guy. And he's been on my fantasy team pretty much every year since I drafted him. God, I forget what round it was, but yeah, it's definitely a weird one, but he's going to be the go-to guy for me for pretty much, I guess, until he retires or just is completely obsolete in the league. So
yeah. Okay, so I got 3. I'll treat it.
Oh, okay.
One, just pretty basic. Right now, I don't think there's someone who's, historically one of my favorite players. In terms of the season, he'll probably have, but AJ Brown, I think, is my favorite player to watch right now.
Yeah.
Maybe he's not going to be as fun as some of those Tennessee years where it didn't matter how many targets, how many snaps. He would just run in a 70-yarder, and that'd be that. And then 2 active players, well, semi-active, that I would say are also my favorite. The Jameis Winston, Mike Evans connection, not active anymore, but half counting. That was probably my favorite season and combo of players to ever watch. Not named the Atlanta Falcons.
Yep.
And then this is just as much cheating. Will Fuller. I would say Will Fuller is probably my favorite player to watch when healthy. So in case Emma does not know, Will Fuller, one, has never played more than 10 games in a season.
Yep.
Last time he played 12, about 2 years ago at this point, he played 12 games, had a career year, and then coincidentally was busted for steroids in week 12. Right around Thanksgiving, right after he scored like 3 touchdowns on Thanksgiving. He has played 1 game since then and broke his finger, has never played again, and is not currently on an NFL team, but is only like 27 years old and is on our dynasty team.
Yes.
So, eventually he'll come back into the league. And it's funny, this morning I was thinking, man, if the Falcons had like a Fuller to stretch the field. But Will Fuller is my off the wall one for favorite player to watch right now.
I love that. That's a fun one. It's even deeper of a cut than Thielen, I'd say. But I mean, it's you get that attachment to a player once, and for like it is usually right for like that weird reason. It's like, why do I like this guy? Oh, because he did this, this, and that, and because he's this and that. And then for whatever reason, it just sticks. So that's a great one. That is a name that I just feel like football heads know. It's like I feel like a lot of general casual fans are probably like, oh yeah, Will Fuller, but
my favorite
deep in the weeds.
My favorite thing to do is have like receivers ranked like probably 7 through 15 or 7 through 20 actually, but all of those guys are top 5 in my mind, and Will Fuller is one of those guys who I think when healthy,
100%.
I think he's a top 10 receiver in the league.
There you go. Yeah.
And I actually think there are some stats out there that would back it up too. I mean, even looking at Watson's numbers with or without Fuller, he's definitely, even if you want to say the best, one of the most impactful receivers to an NFL team. But he's a guy I wish could stay healthy and play every Sunday still. And hopefully he will. Maybe it's not this year, but eventually.
All right. That's my only one. That was my crowdsourcing was limited. I wanted to get my girlfriend involved, but that was about it.
Yeah, I got, let's see, a couple quick ones. One from Paul Mila, 2-time question guy now. How are the San Francisco 49ers in a better position to win the Super Bowl if Jimmy Garoppolo makes the same rookie mistakes Trey Lance was making and you were hating on him for? And that's what Jimmy is. He's going to come in and make some stupid plays. But at the end of the day, we got, at this point, 4 seasons of evidence that they're the most efficient, top 5 most efficient offense in the league when he's the quarterback. Yep. And there's no reason to switch it up to chase something that might not exist in Trey Lance. I don't really care about one Sunday night in Denver in September matters to this team. Because like I've been saying, we know what this team is. We don't need to see anything from this team to change our mind one way or another. It's just a matter of, it's kind of like, just playing a card game. Sometimes the cards are going to go your way. Hopefully the Niners can just roll the dice a certain way, ball bounce a certain way. They're a Super Bowl team. And I think Jimmy's fine for that, as we've seen the past couple of years.
Yeah. And I mean, it was just this season. They're slowly becoming a little bit more injured, but last season, what seed were they in the playoffs? And look where they finished. It's just they didn't necessarily limp into the playoffs, but they turned it on when they had to. They figured things out when it mattered, and look what happened. They were a Jimmy, was it an interception, fumble? I forget how it ended, but they went into Lambeau and they beat Rodgers. So to all the points that you just mentioned, I feel fine with them. It's just there will come a point where I think everything clicks again and they'll start firing all cylinders, and they'll be the same 49ers that we've seen now for the past, 3-4 seasons, as you said. So I think the two of us will just continue to be bullish on them until we're proven otherwise. It's like the regular season is one thing, but they just, they turn it on when it matters, and they make us a lot of money in the playoffs. So let's keep going with them.
Let's see. In terms of NFL, not too many other interesting ones. I guess real quick, if the Bills lose to Baltimore this week, are they still the AFC East favorites?
Yeah, I think they are, because it's hard to say this, but I do think that when Miami does come back to play in Buffalo, I think it's like middle of December. I think Buffalo wins that game. It's going to be freezing. It's basically the reverse fixture. Now I'm talking like soccer, but
oh wow, you're right. Yeah,
it's like and rather than it being 100 degrees, it's going to be like 10 degrees. So pretty much the complete opposite in all respects. So I do think they'll win that game. And I mean, who knows? Miami could lose this week and suddenly there you go. They'd be back to even Steven. So it'll be a conversation for sure. But I think the books will have Buffalo as the resounding favorite, like minus 240 or 280 to win the AFC East. If they lose again this Sunday, then it'll probably become a little bit more of a coin flip. I still say Buffalo would probably be maybe like a minus 115 and Miami like a plus 130, somewhere in that range. But I don't know. I think it would still be a little too early to say, because Miami's good. They're really good. But who knows? I think they're one of those really good teams that could just lose a random game and we'd be like, wait, what just happened? And again, I guess you could say it about anyone, but the Bills do feel almost immune to that at this point.
Yeah. And right now it's minus 250 for the Bills, plus 225 Dolphins. So yeah, I mean, it could definitely drop this week if the Bills lose a game, but I don't know. Floor could fall out from under the Dolphins at any point, especially with the Bills having, I guess, game in hand isn't the word, but knowing they have that game in December in Buffalo in hand.
Yeah.
Makes it a little bit tough compared to if Miami had already won in Buffalo.
Right. Exactly.
So I guess that's all the questions for this week. I'll end on a quick Vegas recap.
Yes.
I don't know, because I guess it was kind of comped. I didn't have like huge expectations. I started getting hyped at the end of last week, but it's such a cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
The flight was fine. I'm a little afraid of flying, but the way they took Spirit, I got window seat and I was just like, I don't know if it's a little bit of a geography nerd, but I was just staring out the window the whole time. Like,
oh my God, no,
looking at everything. And then it's just so crazy. You get past Kansas, you get into Colorado, and then halfway through Colorado, it's just the mountains just start out of nowhere. It's the craziest thing. Like, I don't know, I guess from where from, it's more hills than mountains.
Mm-hmm.
But to see, it was almost like cliffs in video games. It's more than mountains. It was cool to see. We flew right over Colorado Springs, so I guess where the Air Force Academy is. And it's like, it's legitimately just, so it's the Great Plains, and then that's the last city, and then the mountains are legitimately on the border of the city, and it just starts from there.
That's crazy. That's so crazy.
And then after that, it's cool. You fly over like a bunch of the canyons. You got like just the Red Rocks, picturesque stuff. Mm-hmm. We were flying in at like almost sunset too, so it was like crazy to watch. Wow. But we land, and the airport's like probably 5 minutes from the hotel, like the Strip. Mm-hmm. I guess the way Vegas was set up initially, they probably had a ton of space to set it up. It was cool though. The hotel we stayed at, it was New York, so it was themed. We walk in and it's like they have a theme like the West Village and stuff.
Damn.
Just walking through anything. And it's cool. So Sunday we did, first off, 10 a.m. football. Oh my God. Like, I guess then I thought about it. I'm like, once you're an adult, it's probably rough because you want your mornings to like be productive if you're an adult.
Right.
But I woke up 6:30, like wired, ready to go. And like, not because like it was technically 9:30, like I was up late the night before. Like I was just wired for football. I'm like, shit, 6:30. And then like when you get into the 4:00 games and it's only 1:00, it was like the best feeling in the world.
That's crazy.
It was amazing. But we wake up 6:30, we like walked around for a bit. Then we took, because it's funny. I guess, the hotels have limited space. They were built so many years ago, but a lot of the sports books there are like pretty small. And by pretty small, like maybe like 20 seats, 30 seats, 40
wow.
seats. So if you want a seat to watch the game on Sundays, you got to pay like $200 at like just the normal casinos.
Yeah.
So we took this monorail 10 minutes up to like one of the last hotels on the strip, and it's called the Westgate. And they got like the most famous against the spread. They have the largest against the spread pick and pool in the world. It's called the Super Contest. But we take a monorail there, and I sent you the video of the actual sports book, and it was just insane. One, the quality of the screens are so good. It's massive. They have like buffets and like snack stands everywhere. Everyone has like 10 free beer tickets. They're just like giving them out because they don't know what to do with them. And then attached to this massive sports book, they have a 1,600 person theater exclusively for watching football. So we go there, we're like standing watching the games for a bit. And then like we went to the 1,600 person theater, and it's 2 levels. It has like a balcony level, a floor level. They have, I guess in total it was like 12 screens. Awesome to watch. So much fun. And then you got everyone rooting for all the plays. You got the clapping. They have giveaways going on. It like changed my experience watching football. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch it the same way. The only thing I can compare it to was in baseball. They talk about you want to go to Wrigley Field, you want to go to Yankee Stadium, you want to go to Fenway. There is no place I think better to spend an NFL Sunday than in
Vegas.
This. Yeah, and especially there was probably, so on opening day, week one, that's the actual sports book can probably fit like 500 to 750 people. But then they say week one, they do fill up 1,400 of the 1,600 seats in the theater. I was there week 3 and the Raiders weren't home, so it was a little bit more empty for me, but it was still packed, and it was fun to see. And like the amount of cheering going on, it was awesome. Just awesome experience. And we got Saturday, I bet on USC, and they covered. The live spread. Sunday I did Elijah Moore and Pitts player props. They both hit. And the Falcons, of course, money line hit. So
the Vegas books hate you. The Vegas
exactly, yeah.
Never get another free ride again.
Yeah, they got our money back on then what we did on Monday was, there's like 30 hotels there, 35 hotels, and that's like there's not much else to do there except walk around and see all of the themes, because they all have their own theme, their own gimmick. And the one hotel had a bachelor slot machine. So we were playing that. We were up big, but then we lost it. And it's like some of the gimmicks, it'll be like you spin a certain way and you get to do a mock rose ceremony. It was pretty funny. But we lost money on other games. Probably a net negative in terms of gambling on the weekend. But it was fun. And then we saw one of the Cirque du Soleil shows.
Oh, cool.
It was in our hotel. And we're looking at the price and we're like, this is weird. The seats are on the stage, but they're the cheapest seats. They're only $45 or whatever. So we go up to the box office and we're like, what's the deal with these seats? Like, is it like an obstructive view? Because they're on the stage, but they're only 45. And he has like a screen going behind him for like highlights of the show. And he's like, oh yeah, those are the seats right there. And he's pointing, and you're like, the people are sitting basically like face to face with the performers. He's like, yeah, it's a bit of an obstructed view. So, they're the cheapest ones. So like, no way. Like this, like, okay, whatever. We'll take them because there's no way. So we get the seats and like, you're on the stage. It was incredible. I'll send you the video after.
Yeah.
And I mean, obstructive view, I guess, could be defined as what happened, but it's obstructed because you're in the actual performance. Like there was this one act and it's a death wheel. So he like basically does. He's like spinning around a wheel and he's jumping up and down on the wheel as it's like moving itself in an orbit. And he's like, if he falls, he would have landed like on top of my head. Like that's what like, technically it's obstructed, but like I was almost inside the wheel with him. And then like the performers are like referring to it. One, we had everyone else just had normal seats, kind of like you would have a Giant stadium, and we had like these big giant lazy boys. It was crazy. And then like one of the comedians came on stage and he's like, oh yeah, they told me I can't make fun of the VIP seats over here, and he's like pointing at our seats. And then like people we were sitting with knew people performing, so I don't know, I think it was like a glitch in the system.
Holy cow,
that was like as football is awesome, definitely my highlight of the trip, but just like in terms of weirdness of what happened with those seats, it was like
they're looking at you like you own one of the casinos and you're just like sitting there courtside.
Yeah, it was crazy. I'll send you the video after of what it was, but like we got in there and we're like, okay, we're probably not gonna be able to see half the show because there's no other reason the seats located here would be this low priced. But no, we were basically in the show. Like if there was a video of the show, we would be right there on the stage basically. So it was cool. But overall, it was a fun trip. It was definitely the football alone, way more enjoyment than I was expecting. It was just the ultimate viewing experience, and also the 10 a.m. thing was awesome.
Yeah, it's gotta be like B-dubs on steroids.
Yeah, exactly. The amount of people there, and then like everyone has money on it too.
Oh, of course.
Sitting there, so it's cool. Luckily, I was by people rooting for the Colts, so I was also able. I guess that was probably my biggest rooting interest in the 10 o'clock window, as they call it over there. And the one complaint about the theater actually. So they have 12 screens. So a couple games actually are on 2 screens, even though it's whatever. They didn't have red zone as one of the 12 screens.
No way.
Like an atrocity. I was ready to go up to like the MC and be like, wait, what is going on here?
So you got to keep track of every single screen.
Yeah, exactly. And like it was almost a positive because it made it so like crazy. I was like looking around constantly pointing. But yeah, they didn't have it. And they had like the sound. I think the reason he kind of explained it, but not really. I didn't directly ask him. They had the main screen they had as the Bills-Dolphins game.
Yeah.
And every commercial break, they do a giveaway. So I guess they time it up so the sound in the actual theater can be muted for a bit and for doing
right. What is what dictates the sound? Like which screen gets the sound?
Yeah, I guess it's the game of the week to put it on, but it's actually I don't know. I guess they decide whatever the best game of the week was, but they had, I think it's like 8 medium-sized screens and then 3 massive screens.
Yeah.
And the 3 massive they did. The only annoying thing was they put the Raiders on one of the massive screens, which I could have cared less about that game. Especially because I was actually watching the Ravens and Pats the most, which was on one of the smaller ones. And then the other 2 main screens was Bills Dolphins and Colts Chiefs, which was a solid game.
Yeah.
But it was cool to see. The only annoying thing was like you're seeing every play, which is awesome. But since you don't have sound or red zone, you can't really tell when people get hurt.
Yeah.
That was the only negative I'd say, because I saw when I finally got on Twitter, like at the end of the day, people were talking that like Amon-Ra got hurt. I didn't really see that happen.
Yeah. That's actually interesting. I didn't think about that.
And then same thing with David Montgomery. Like I didn't look at that screen once, because why would I? It's Texans. Yeah. So I didn't look at that screen once, and then I looked and Herbert had 35 points and Montgomery got hurt. I didn't even realize until like the next day. I was like, oh shit, whatever. But like just being able to, red zone's awesome, but just picking like 4 games and just like you're seeing every single play on those 4 games.
Yeah. Oh god, that's gotta be.
And like the crowd going nuts. It was awesome.
Yeah. Well, happy to hear it was nothing but success. I realize we're almost at time, but my one question, this is just like, it's just so interesting to me. It's a foreign concept because obviously a lot of what you just mentioned is foreign to me, but 10 a.m. football sounds amazing. But what happens when the 8:20 game is over at 8:20 East, like 8:20 West Coast time? Like obviously there's a lot to do in Vegas. I'm not saying there isn't, but like, was it weird to have football just be done and then it's like, okay, now like at this time on the West Coast is when usually I'd be getting ready for something in football. Like, is that at all difficult to wrap your head around? Or
yeah, I would say it almost makes watching the night game hard. So what kind of happened was we were like,
not to mention the night game sucked. So like,
yeah. So this is why I was going to say it was almost a positive, because after the 1 o'clock there games, we went back to like the actual casinos around our hotel and was gambling. So we had like the Niners game on in the background at the places we were doing whatever. so we were watching, but it makes it easier to just like, I'm not going to really watch the night game because it's only 5:00. But like, if you're on the East Coast, it's like, what else am I going to do except watch the night game?
Right.
So it kind of like lowers the enjoyment of Sunday Night Football because it's only 5:00. Like if you dedicate yourself to watching that game, you kind of miss out on almost the whole. It's a bigger time commitment because then it's hard to start something at 8:30.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So luckily it wasn't that great of a game because I was only half paying attention.
Yeah, right.
But I would say that's the only negative. The night game ending early. But waking up at 6:30 was it's I know I feel like I had a negative opinion on it for so long, but it was awesome.
So you actually do it, yeah. That's pretty crazy. I guess my only qualm with that, just as like a soccer fan, like what makes Sundays just so amazing is that I can wake up, there will be amazing games on until noon. And then noon is, it's football's all day Sunday, but like keeping like an eye on fantasy and having like one of those shows up on the computer, but then watching soccer and then having soccer finish and then going right into football. Like that's to me like the perfect kind of like morning. I like the fact that I get to kind of dip my toes in a little bit of everything. Being in the West Coast, it'd be a little difficult to wake up at like 5 a.m. to watch some games. And then, I don't know. It's just, it's very interesting, but from a pure football perspective, it seems like a must do. Gotta at least go in the next maybe next year. That'll be on the radar.
It's hard to describe how awesome that watching those games were on Sunday. Like it just completely has changed football for me.
Yeah, I can imagine it's just like going to B-dubs times like a million, just like literally in all ways possible.
And then because you got everyone has eyes on all, and this is the funniest part. Maybe I know this because somehow everyone, maybe it's like a sixth sense. They know exactly what screen to watch at what exact time, because especially if you don't have red zone. And the cheers always find a way to sync up. It's like
that's crazy.
It's like a performance art or something.
Yeah,
the way everyone unknowingly can cheer for the same thing at the same time while looking at 12 screens. And then like Amy halfway through the day is like, how did they know? Like because I'm doing the same thing. It's like, how do you guys know what like when to cheer and what to look at?
Yeah.
And I'm just like,
I don't know.
You kind of got to be a freak, like a football freak. But
it is. Yeah.
You know what to look at what time.
That's crazy. That is really crazy. It's like, I'm sure like the equation is like peripheral vision plus what happened in the last play plus like crowd feel. And then you just know it's like, all right, like that TV, like I know that they're driving and I know that they just did this, boom, there it is, like perfect timing. That's crazy. That is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it was I really thought it was gonna be, and I like walking a lot too, so it's fun walking around seeing all the hotels.
Yeah.
But it surpassed expectations for me, which I wasn't completely sold. Like I thought there was a chance I was gonna go there Sunday and just be like, oh man, I kind of just wasted a day in Vegas, like just doing what I do at home anyway. But it was unreal, impossible to describe. It was unreal.
That's sweet.
Good trip in general.
Love to hear it.
And then hopefully, now that I'm back from Vegas, hopefully I've gained some gambling knowledge.
Right, you're a shark.
Being around the people,
of course. Osmosis
off on me. And this will be the last thing I'll say. One of the casinos there who run Survivor. I want to get your take on this. They have Thanksgiving as their own week in Survivor.
Whoa.
And so I feel like that will add such a cool layer of game theory.
Oh yeah.
You only got 6 teams that could possibly play.
Yeah. So you can't waste all those 6, but you probably would never pick the Lions or the Cowboys.
Yeah.
The Lions, but
because what everyone was talking about was, I guess the Vikings is whoever wants to take on Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
And they were playing the Lions, who I guess, people could have also taken them against the Lions. But the tiebreaker was you got to save the Vikings for Thanksgiving. And I was like, it's a cool layer. I don't know.
It is. But then can you imagine the Vikings lose and the entire league is just like out?
Yeah. Same.
If like the 3 teams that maybe picked, I don't know, whoever else is going.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, I guess they play Detroit that week too. That's the only thing that makes sense to me. But I don't know. But yeah. So hopefully let's get a win. Right where we want to be within striking distance of first. Hopefully this week we get another $85.
Let's do it.
Yep.